G'day fellow Christians of the internet, this is most must-see subscriber going here on YouTube, Bruzo Dragonius, also known as the most must-see Argonian. And this is the absolute news that is going on in the gaming community. And I know for a fact that I may be a furry YouTuber, but I'm also a gamer. That it has been announced by Sony that they are announcing to end the physical copies of their game, of any of their new games. In other words, the discs, and they're going to not have and stop production of disc in the year 2028. And apparently, and there would be so many factors, as that apparently there has been some reports of people not apparently buying discs and all that kind of stuff. Instead, they're just rather there's people that were there that's instead rather much downloading the games and all that kind of stuff from the PlayStation Store that is really built in on their consoles ever since, I believe, the PS4 came out. Or is it the PS5? I'm not quite sure, but please comment to confirm me if it's a PS4 or the PS5 that the PlayStation Store came out to online usage and all that kind of. And I tell you what, there are so many gamers out there, especially the PlayStation loyalists like myself. I pretty much am low-key. I'm not really happy about this outcome, especially even though that I'm quite on the fence about it, because I don't really have the money to afford any new discs or whatever. But anywho, there are some collectors out there that still do, that would rather have the biggest ever library of all the games right in their homes and all that kind of stuff. But that's not only that. They are also cutting out movie content, PlayStation, that you can actually buy and all that kind of stuff, to make way for the storage of the new games that they're going to go straight on digital. So, in other words, right, they are not only going to put their own games, from their studio games, whether it's Gran Turismo or any of their original games, like, I don't know, Crash Bandicoot or Spyro the Dragon, straight onto digital, and can only be downloaded once that you have the internet. It goes for every other studios that have decided to even release their games on PS5 onwards. Every single independent studio, you will not get a hard copy of those games. I know for sure that Sony have once mocked Xbox for this move and that, Microsoft, where they have got all their games digital and all that kind of stuff, because there's not many Xbox games that are hard copies. I believe on the Xbox One X, One S or something like that. But who do I know? I am not an Xbox gamer. I'm Team Sony, right? But to most of us, it is basically not only to the consumer, but it also is a kick in the guts to the retailers, like EB Games for one, like JB Hi-Fi or Game. There are so many game retailers out there that is copying this thing from it. Because you see, especially with EB Games now, like, I know for sure that they've got a second, they've got a sister brand called Zing Pop Culture and that. I mean, they can pretty much sell all the board game stuff, all the nerd stuff and whatnot, or pop vinyls, right? So, I guess that EB Games would be still fine, even though that it's going to affect half their business of what Sony is doing to their physical copies. Not only that, but they're also stopping this because of the consumers much rather share games with each other with their friends. They like to try sample the games before they buy them. You know, it's more of try before you buy. And so PlayStation have stopped this because, in other words, that once you buy the games from 2028 onwards, right, you cannot share your games to any one of your friends. And not only that, but every single game that is digital, you are renting from Sony. Other words, that you don't own it, right? I know for sure that there is some cons about it. There's some downsides to it. I mean, a lot of it that's going to affect us as a gamer, as their customer base. I mean, there's some standards that they have mocked Microsoft for going on this path, and they're claiming to be for the players, like what their slogan is. But, however, they're doing the very thing that they mocked Microsoft for their Xbox. 50%, as for some of the statistics, that 50% as a reaction to this are deciding to exodus out of PlayStation and go to PC gaming. Now, I may not be one of the 50% because I'm more of a console loyalist. I mean, as far as I know, that it's cheaper to play, to play on a game console than it actually is on a PC. Because the fact being is that not only that it's difficult to play on the console because there's so many few buttons that you could only worry about, but however, it is the entire setup. I mean, yes, I am using a gaming laptop, but you see, it'll all add up in storage and all that kind of stuff. That is the other disadvantage of having digital games onto consoles, is that it's going to add up to storage. It's going to add up and add up and add up. You know, what if, say, for instance, that you have lost your have your game console broken and all that kind of stuff? I mean, you better damn know the password to your PSN file and all that kind of stuff. Because once you get your new PlayStation and all that kind of stuff, you know, from your broken one, once you replace your PS5 or PS4 or whatever, or if you're getting a PS6, then you have to know your passwords to your PSN so you can get to those games, so you can get to those accounts to actually play the games. I mean, I know for a fact it doesn't really bother me as much, right? Because I'm thinking about getting a PS5 digital, right? Which is a lot more cheaper than the disc ones. But at least that I'm being prepared for that. It'll piss a lot of people off. Not only that, but the collectors off. Because some of us gamers would want us to have like a whole entire library full to the brim with games. You know, I remember back in the day where even when video games have started, that you see numerous cartridges. I remember the days where when you get to your local Blockbuster or Video Easy or whatever, you can just simply rent a game and try that out. Even though that you probably would be paying money and all that kind of stuff, but at least you're sampling them for a week. And yes, you have to pay to sample them. That is one of the best times of gaming where, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But what happened to the good old try before you buy? And the thing about it is that the only way to get the good old try before you buy is if you're a PS Plus member. which, yeah, you probably would be paying probably about 150, 160 a year in my currency and all that kind of stuff. And you don't get a choice of the free games. In fact, that probably would get you 2 free games anyway per month when you're on PS Plus. But I mean, that is the only access to try before you buy. And I know for a fact that even with we just like getting it for free as a PS Plus member. So again, it's going to piss other people off. Not to mention that we're in this age that not many modern games require you to play without the use of the internet. And I'm not talking just, of course, Elder Scrolls Online, but other games are just joining the trend. I mean, are following suit, especially with Gran Turismo as well. I don't know if they're going to have more online free play or something like that when they shut the the GT7 servers for GT8. Right? I don't know the future and all that kind of stuff. But you see, of all this anger, at the same time, there are a very few plus sides to it, right? Which is, for one, if you live in a very small space in your home and all that kind of stuff, if you have, whether you live in a small apartment, or whether you're in a share house and you have a small space to call as your den or whatever, then you don't need to worry about having to hold so much space of the physical copies of the disc and all that kind of. But saying that, the other downside is like to not having like the disc for the space. Well, what's the point where that you would be that much of a big gamer and spend so much money on games and all that kind of stuff that you would have to buy, you have to consider investing in numerous amounts of hard drives. And I'm talking, of course, one of these, right? And you can get them for the PS5 onwards. Hell, I've already got one of those things hooked up to my PS5 and that is worth like 1 terabyte. But it's starting to be that stage that you have to buy, I don't know, probably about, at most, 10 of these or something like that. That would store up to 1 terabyte of memory, which is like all the games and all that kind of stuff. And there are so many games out there that is takes up a lot more storage space and all that kind of stuff that you won't know when you would end up running with that space a lot more quickly and all that kind of stuff, because you see that, especially with the updates, especially with the footage, especially the fact that I'm a gamer and all that kind of stuff, because I don't only store games, but I also, get footage. Like in my Let's Play videos, I end up getting footage, like with the Elder Scrolls Adventures and all that kind of stuff, and download them and all that kind of stuff, and sooner or later, because of some update, I probably would have to delete those footage and all that kind of stuff, and it does your freaking head in, right? So I'm basically low-key disappointed on the fact about with this move from Sony, of having this many, having to come up with this idea as well. Whether or not that they're alienating the consumer or the following because of that. But yeah, I do have a lot of mixed reactions to it, especially as a gamer, and especially the fact that it does really concern me as a member of the game community, and I'm just talking about it because I'm also a gaming channel, a game content creator, and not just a furry. So, what are your thoughts on this news about, with Sony looking to end the physical copies production and all that kind of stuff? What are your thoughts? I'm very more curious about it. What are your thoughts on it? Are you sort of like me, that you're just on the fence about it? Maybe you're one of those PlayStation gamers yourself that are just really outraged to the point that you wanted to move to the PC and all that kind of stuff and game there, like on the PC. And mind you, that gaming PCs in their games have so much space that they take up. Not in the physical forms, but especially in your memory and all that kind of stuff. Especially that you need, because you need to have the money spent on the graphics card and whatnot. So any thoughts on that? What are your plans should that happen? Maybe just comment down below. Also, if you do like this video and all that kind of stuff, make sure you leave a thumbs up so the algorithm would know. If you do want to support me further, and if you do like my videos, make sure you consider subscribing to this channel, as I do, because those things would help me to get the algorithm to acknowledge that that you really like some of my videos and all that kind of stuff. Also, if you want to be the first person to know, make sure you press that bell icon so you'll be the first one to know when my next video comes out. Also, the usual ways to give me money and social media is on the description down below. If you want to follow me in such social medias or whatever, or if you want to give me money, but and also if you want to friend me on PSN, or if you want to, or whatever, look up my gamer tag of Bruzo21. As always, this is a must see subscriber going here on YouTube, Bruzo Dragonius. Thank you for watching me rambling on about this news, and also, even though it probably would take forever, and I'm just going around in circles and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I just hope that you have an amazing day. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for subscribing to the channel if you have, or if you consider, please subscribe. And as always, may God you all. Bye for now.